Now, the clock is ticking. We are 96 days away from Tax-mageddon, so naturally the progressives in Congress are also worried about tax hikes on the middle class. They're even issuing a plea against poverty. The Congressional Out of Poverty Caucus, that's the real name, I didn't know it exists, released a letter today ripping Paul Ryan's budget. It warned the middle class will get crushed with tax increases while calling for a focus on fighting poverty. Yeah, pretty standard stuff from the progressive wing of Congress. Tax the rich, but not the people who are actually using the government programs. But here's the thing. What defines middle class anymore? How about those that get government benefits and those that don't? Remember Mitt Romney's 47% comments? Well, that's exactly what he was talking about. Progressives have been subsidizing the middle class with social welfare programs for years to the point we don't even know what the middle class looks like anymore. All those programs for the poor, like food stamps or Medicaid, heating subsidies, Pell Grants, you name it, have been increasingly extended to the middle class. When progressives talk about the middle class, they talk about government programs and tax credits that make the middle class feel like they have more than they actually do. That's exactly why when they talk about cutting spending, they'll say it will kill the middle class. Here's an idea. The progressives in Congress should ponder, why don't we take away all the subsidies and then find out who really needs them and who's actually poor? And if you want programs for the middle class, maybe they should have to pay for some of them. I mean, whatever happened to everyone paying their quote-unquote fair share? I guess that logic only applies when they're trying to soak the rich with higher taxes to pay for their socialist utopia. Let me bring in assistant professor of politics at King's College, Matthew Parks. I want to build on that point. I feel like that we have two movements in this country with two fundamentally different views of the middle class. One, conservatives who see the so-called middle class as a place where people worked their way in. They were neither rich nor poor. They believe that they should keep the fruits of their labor and acquire property, private property, that they can either use to elevate themselves or their family members in the future, versus the progressives who think, well, we could bring the wall down with subsidies.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an independent middle class versus a dependent middle class. The conservative vision is that you work hard, your family is rewarded with that, your neighbors, your community benefits, your church benefits, private associations grow and flourish. That's the vision. The liberals want you to have a tie to the government, to know that even if you feel middle class, you're really not there without them. You know, you go back to that video that is making the rounds of President Clinton back in 1998. If you listen to the whole thing, listen to his remarks, he's talking about building a dependent class, a majority coalition of dependent folks, what he calls the working poor, but it's really the middle class to get a majority. He's talking about that back in 1998.
We could actually play that clip if you need remembering.
I think the trick is figuring out how do we structure government systems that pool resources and hence facilitate some redistribution, because I actually believe in redistribution, at least at a certain level, to make sure that everybody's got a shot.
You know, in '92, Bill Clinton said we should have the rich pay their fair share but not be soaked, and we shouldn't have these dependent classes. We should add work requirements to welfare. That's gone. So is that Bill Clinton. I mean, we don't see that guy anymore.
Absolutely. And again, State Senator Obama is saying that back in '98. He says, I'm against workfare requirements. Well, here we are, 2012, he's doing it. Right? I mean, he's very honest. He tells us what he's going to do, and he does it. We just don't believe him.
You know, one of the funny things is they say they're not going to raise taxes on people making less than $250. The president doesn't want these crushing taxes. But Steny Hoyer, and I have the piece also from Roll Call, saying, well, I don't know any Democrats who believe in wealth redistribution. We just played the president in his own words.
Absolutely.
But if you're saying that there's a class of people who are going to pay for a means-tested program, therefore they don't qualify for it. On the other side, people who aren't going to pay for a means-tested program, and by virtue they are going to qualify for it, how is that anything but wealth redistribution?
The math doesn't work, except with redistribution. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Yeah, take from somebody, give to somebody else. Somebody's not paying, then somebody has to be paying for them.
It's that simple. Now, here's another thing. I wrote these two down, the gas tax and the estate tax. As of January 1st, the estate tax for estates over $1 million is going to jump to 55%. Now, when you think of millionaires and billionaires, or you think of people earning $1 million or more in income, that's not an estate. You can see average Americans with real estate, automobiles, 401k, perhaps if they're a farmer, their farm equipment, and their land could actually be considered valued by the IRS to the tune of $1 million. If you're taking 55% of that away or billing the family after death, then what you're saying is that private property that was acquired by somebody who worked very hard for it, what I said about elevating family members to maybe the upper middle class or a private education versus a public education, that goes out the window if you're taking 55% of it.
It's more ours than theirs, right? I mean, you've lost control over half your property. What are you building? What's the point of trying to make that extra effort, to work that extra year, to do that extra job, to have that creative idea when it's all going to be taken away in that situation?
The other side of that is